Okay, I was trying to get my TikTok to work, so sorry about that delay. I'm not sure if it's streaming or not. I don't think it is, but we'll figure it out as we go, right? Anyway, we're looking right now. I'm using our exclusive Baron technology at quite the tornado outbreak that is occurring right now in the upper plains. This is a pretty serious situation. One of the bigger systems that I've seen in a long time shaping up across Iowa. And I wanted to start out with the general flow of things here just to get your bearings. Thanks for everybody tuning in across Facebook and on the other platforms out there as well. Talk about active weather. We were very quiet, and we're still quiet in the east, but we are seeing around this ring of high pressure here all of this severe weather activity that's occurring right now. Southern Minnesota, there's another low back in the Dakotas. It still has to move through, and you can see there in the Four Corners area a lot going on there as well. So wave after wave after wave of energy, and it's going to take a lot of time just to get through here. And by the way, it's snowing right now in Utah and the parts of Iowa. So we're going to kind of zoom in on this area right now. This area is lit up, unfortunately, just as models had today. Minneapolis is okay right now, but if you move a little bit farther south, numerous hook echoes and confirmed tornadoes there on the ground. In addition, we are seeing reports of hail up to about 2 to 4 inches in diameter. One of those very impressive situations. So let's go in right now. This is a look at the next hour or two in terms of our algorithm. This is a MIT algorithm, and it detects growth and decay, and it basically is an updated 5 minute interval forecast that goes out 2 hours. So it's not getting this from a computer model. This is figuring out the radar trends, and then every 5 minutes it's spitting out a new run, if you will, very near term. And so it looks like I saw down the Green Bay, Rhinelander, and also Lakeview, Lakeville, and Mason City, Iowa could be under the gun here by the time we go into 10, 11 o'clock tonight local time. Now I want to get you right to the big stuff that's occurring right now. And south of Eau Claire, we've got some rotation being picked up. I want to see if I've got how many tornado warnings on the screen. One, two, three, four, numerous tornado warnings. My technology will try to pinpoint the tornadic activity, the circulation, independent of the National Weather Service. They do a great job, but this is a different way to look at it. Basically, what Baron does is it looks at all the wind shear profiles through all the radars, through all 14 layers, and it compiles it separate of what the National Weather Service radar does. It has its own proprietary way to pick out rotation. So we're going to go ahead and go in now. Looks like Iowa right now is a place to be if you're a storm chaser, not if you're taking shelter from these storms, unfortunately. Just give me 1 second here. We'll zoom on in. This is Mason City, of course. We got Minneapolis up here. A fair amount of severe thunderstorm warnings. And by the way, all that purple, that's hail, where it's been tracked over the past hour or so. So Ringstead, we've got a tornado warning in effect for you. I've got wind shear at about 60 miles per hour here. It's been putting down some hail too right in the path there, and that continues to move a little bit farther to the north and east. There's a separate cell nearing the Blue Earth area, and that one may expire pretty soon here. As we go a little bit farther north, we're going into another radar site, so let's check out our indicator here. I'm going to go to the Minneapolis radar. I've got the composite radar up underneath this, but south of Fairmont, just northeast of Armstrong. And I'm going to get rid of some of the lightning data. It's a bad event when you have to get rid of lightning data because it's covering up too much of the actual data out there. East chain circulation here. We've also got some circulation there in the Ringstead area. We'll look at some of the raw radar data here in just a second. Also, another tornado warning of Highway 14 here, getting into Northfield. Look at the hail that's been falling here. and then more around the Arcadia area in Wisconsin. All this activity continues to kind of move farther north and east, and this is just one wave of many that we're seeing across the upper plains, unfortunately. These are all tornado warnings where you see the red blinking polygons, and then we've got severe thunderstorm warnings showing up there in the orange. But let's check out some of the filtered stuff. So what we can do with Barron, we can take out the actual rainfall so that you're not looking at just like splattered paint. And you can see here that we've got 3-inch hail being picked up there in the white. So this is ignoring all the other regular rainfall that you would see on the radar. So it's not all cloudy or whatever. And it's just pinpointing the areas that are going to have the big impacts here. And right now we've got a severe thunderstorm warning here, but we're looking at straight line winds around the Arcadia area just east of Buffalo City. Whitehall also in the path of this storm. See, we can put some of these storm tracks on here. There are almost too many to actually mention. The Barron storm track, it gives out of a 10-point range, what's called a Barron tornado index, and it's at 4.4 at this particular cell. Some of the arrival times there on your screen. And then I'm going to go a little bit farther north here because I've got some tornado detection also picked up in this huge supercell here. I think the movement's a little off, but we'll go ahead and go in. 58-mile-per-hour winds. The black areas are 2-inch hail, and that's right over Fairchild. That's probably in the bear's cage of this system, that particular supercell anyway. Looking at the direct radar sites, this is from the La Crosse radar. You can see the circulations here where you see that brighter greens there against the darker greens. That's the radar actually picking that up in the mid layers of the atmosphere. And I think we've got some storm chasers on this thing as well. Let's pull up our radar Omega. Some of the more classic hook echoes that I can see, and this one right there, that looks nasty. What's that? Clinton Falls. I'm in Virginia, so I'm going to slaughter these names, unfortunately. Owatonna, under the tornado warning. Warsaw, Morristown. You can definitely see the hook echo right there. And let's go over to our velocity data. Pretty strong couplet. I'm going to go with 7 frames, and we'll load up this. It's nearing Interstate 35. The circulation looks pretty decent to me. It could be a bit tighter. It looks like it wrapped up and then it kind of weakened a little bit. Still, it's probably got a history of putting down some baseball-sized hail. That 1 pixel right there is a little bit concerning, that yellow. And again, the radar is not going to pick these up perfectly, but it will do a pretty good job of picking up everything close to it. Go to our correlation coefficient, see if we've got any debris showing up. And unfortunately, we do. A lot of that could be hail that's falling. I like to check and make sure, before I get going too much here, I like to check and make sure that this is getting out. This is upper Midwest, up around the Wisconsin Great Lakes area. I'm doing national stuff now. Ryan Hall, y'all beat me to it, but I'm trying to close in on the guy. Now he's a good guy. He's got a lot of. I've got his app actually. We'll look at that in just a second. I'll put some of these storm chasers on real fast for you. Chaser convergence is a big problem. There are several storm chasers on this one cell. Right now, that cell doesn't look as well defined as it could. In fact, some of these other cells, the one near Lake Crystal, to me looks better defined. There could be a tornado warning there. That's Highway 60 there near Lake Crystal, Garden City, and 169 Highway 14. I'm going to keep backing up here so you can see where this is. That's Minneapolis right there. Then looking into Iowa, we've got more. And not to be outdone, we've got activity also around Topeka, Kansas, in and around Emporia, and nearing the greater Kansas City area as well. Flash flooding, this area is also seeing a lot of rain. They're getting a lot of hail, just a lot of water falling out of the sky. So let's see what we've got going on. Some of our chasers. I can't show too much of this probably. Just some rain. That's not surprising because that storm does not look as well defined as maybe this one does. Let's see. I think there's a camera up here. Yeah, they're chasing that one. A pretty good base developing there. This is the towering part of the storm. That's the updraft. You see how rural the area is. That's Nathan Moore. A lot of people went after this supercell near Mapleton, but there's just nothing more than hail and heavy rain from what I can see. But there is a there's a wall cloud. There we go. You can see that there, kind of angled back toward the downdraft. So what's happening is, I believe, let me get my bearings here. On the right side of your screen is the downdraft. The updraft would be on the left side of the screen. And the whole thing, we got a little striation right there, the whole thing is just spinning counterclockwise. That is this storm. Let me see if I can do a split screen for you. Don't y'all go reporting me for putting some of these storm chasers on. Just trying to make a living. I've spent the night in Albert Lee. It's beautiful up there. Unfortunately, that's a bad looking storm. One of many. Where is Radar Omega? Where did it go? Pretty sure that thing up and closed. I think I closed it. It's just the guy we had earlier. His signal's getting blocked. Muskega, Minnesota. Bandwidth issues. We'll keep it there. Let me show you the broader standpoint. Again, this is in Minnesota. We'll get rid of the radar sites here so you can actually see the Minneapolis and other city names there popping up on your screen. And this activity extends. All these storms from Eau Claire all the way to Appleton and Green Bay, they're all severe. Just about. They are all producing hail of at least an inch in diameter. I would say about 80 to 90% of them are severe. And there's 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings right now that I count up in that area across the upper plains, and now getting into extreme northern Iowa there near the Mason City area. I'd watch this area if you know anybody from Mason City on down through Fort Dodge. Right now it looks like the activity is probably going to near the Rochester La Crosse area as the evening goes on, but that's a pretty nasty looking cell there near Mapleton. If I can get the chaser feed to come back for us. There are so many chasers in that same spot. I believe what's happening is they're overwhelming the cell towers. We're going to do this. We're going to pop a few of them up. That's the one near Mapleton, so I'm going to zoom into Mapleton. This guy's got the best vantage point. He's got a professional camera on it. You can tell that's the wall cloud right there. I'm not going to pop this up full because I don't exactly have an agreement with any of these folks other than just fair use, if they'll let me do that. You can see all the different chasers that converge. There's a little bit of a vort kind of hanging down there, getting a little bit choppy. This is along Highway 40 near the Minnesota Lake area. Highway 22. Gosh, I hope they're careful. That video is looking a little shaky. Oh, I see. I see why we couldn't do a split screen. The graphics card is cooking right now. You can see about 6 different programs I got going on in the background here. Mapleton. I'm trying to pull up the Barren next to the Radar Omega so we can see both of these. I want you to get an idea of what you're seeing. You're seeing one cell near Mapleton. Some aqua green there showing up in that camera there. That is this storm on the left side of your screen, right there. Okay. Now, look at all the other storms that look even stronger than this one. South of Lakeview, Faribault, Blue Earth. Again, this the cell around Blue Earth and Elmore looks even stronger than the one again in Mapleton. There's also rotation with the storm in St. James. This is probably a historic outbreak, unfortunately, we're seeing. And it's good that we've got some ground truth here. We don't quite have a tornado on the ground around Mapleton, but that thing it's trying. So I'm gonna get rid of it because if I don't watch out, I'll get into some trouble with copyright here. There's another supercell there near Waseca, north of Clifton Falls and Medford. Actually, it's nearing the Medford area. This has a tornado warning with it. I haven't done a split screen in a while, but here we go. So Clinton Falls on the Barren image is on the left. On the right is the Radar Omega image. This is Interstate 35 right here. Also on your right side is Interstate 35 and Highway 14 going across from east to west. Now I want you to notice on our Barren indicator here, and it just updated, this is not rain. This is a look at damaging wind. On the right is rain and a hook echo there, maybe merging with this cell to the south there near the junction of Route 14 and Interstate 35. But when you see this light green, almost yellow, and then it goes into kind of a burgundy color, that is a strong indicator of damaging wind. So what the technology on the left is doing is it's figuring out not only just the velocity, but is that wind actually producing any damage? What's the shear rate like? And what it can do is it can pinpoint straight line winds, but it can also detect some of these tornadoes that occur. And that's what you see the rotating cylinders for there near Clinton Falls and Medford. Got a BTI of 3 out of 10, a Bear and Tornado Index 3 out of 10. Also about a 3 out of 10 there with the circulation near Clinton Falls. Now on the right, we can see it's hooking a bit. The hail with the system, with any supercell, is right over the Deerfield area and the Medford and the Lazy U Mobile Home Park. Unfortunately, that's a bad place to be when there's a tornado on the ground or nearing on the ground. And that little icon right there is the chaser that's following. Let's see how Nathan's doing. Pretty dark clouds there. I don't know if I could handle the chasing or not, because it just seems like it would be a nightmare to try to get ahead of these things when you've got so many different chasers around. But what a valuable tool there. The base of the storm right here, there's a towering cumulus, and here is the actual system. Now this is the entire country. I've got dew points up here so you can see a measure of those 60-degree dew points plus. You can look back across the west and you can see dew points that are only in the teens and the 20s and even the single digits across the Rockies. Whenever you've got that much moisture pumping north up and around this big ridge of high pressure, same ridge that's keeping us dry here in Virginia, although we've had a couple of showers around today, nothing really more than just to dampen the ground. But you can see all the lightning activity. That's what's showing up there in 3D. And I'll remove some of the dew points so you can see this is the enhanced energy helicity index. So where you see all that shading right there, that, let's see, I'll make it kind of jump out. This is a measure of not only wind shear but also rotation. And it's kind of a combined look at where we've got storm fuel and where we're seeing those winds cross. And it's not perfect, but it does give us an idea of how ripe the atmosphere is. Now you still have to have something come along here and lift the air, but we've got no problem doing that because we've got a low coming out of Grand Island in Nebraska, and we've got a warm front extending through Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, and really back here, if you're local, you know that some of our tornadoes that we get back here in Virginia are from warm fronts where we have winds out of the northeast out ahead of it, very cold. If you pop temperatures up right now, you'll probably see that. Yeah, temperatures in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but south of the warm front, temperatures are in the 70s. And it's also the demarcation of a wind shift from the northeast with the high pressure system up in Winnipeg, Canada, meeting the southwest winds coming in out of Iowa. So really just a classic setup here. And you can see the spark go off today. Just a couple of showers around earlier, and then boom, there we go. And there you see it all the way, almost a continuous line now from Green Bay back to Eau Claire. Right now it's south of town for Eau Claire. Minneapolis also south of town. Everything's just south of the big metro areas. Chicago's been one of the places that's been kind of been the outlooks for possibly, you know, something happening there since it's a big metropolitan area. They had this one wave of storms kind of go through. I'm going to dim this a little bit more for you. This is now northern Ohio, so getting kind of close to home in the mid-Atlantic. But again, everything's going up and around this big summer-like area of high pressure. And again, as we move south of this system, we've got the trailing, I wouldn't call it a cold front, but it's a dry line for sure. And it's actually firing up storms all the way from Mexico, all the way in through Kansas City, going into Iowa, where we're looking at, again, flash flooding. Sometimes in these events, what will happen is we'll get so many storms that will have too much lift for actual discrete supercells. Right now we still have the supercells, but my money's on probably more of a flash flood threat and maybe a straight line wind threat with time. We see that happening a lot with situations where we've got just so much going on. But right now, it's kind of in between. We're seeing supercells, but we're also seeing actual discrete supercells mixed with clusters of storms there. Here's a storm near Arcadia. Lightning can give you an idea of the intensity of an updraft. That's how that lightning will form. You see all the different strikes out there. I don't know if you can, probably can't see that. It's about 1,500 lightning strikes on your screen. And every time you see it flash, there's a new one coming in. But Green Bay, there's a severe thunderstorm warning in effect just off to your west. Looks like about 1.75 inch hail with that one. Here's the Hook Echo north of Black River Falls. And back here south of southern Minnesota, back across Mason City, Iowa, right on the state line between Minnesota and Iowa, near Fairmont and Albert Lea, unfortunately. Albert Lea, again, it's a really pretty place. I stayed there one time for a church trip. If I look at this and I put it in motion, say from Rochester, Minnesota, down through Albert Lea, is the area you want to watch over the next 1 to 2 hours. Go ahead and zoom that out. I'm going to different screens here. I'm going to show you, this is like my behind the scenes look at everything. I've got radar scope, or 2 radar scopes going up here on my Apple computer. But I use this because when I investigate some of these cells, and that thing's going all kinds of crazy on you. Hold on. It knew it was on the air. Wait it. Near Mapleton, yeah, it still looks pretty bad. Here's the Barron updated map here. Right near the airport there at Clinton Falls. 3 out of a 10. Blue Earth still under a tornado warning. And lots of hail through here. I will say the number of tornado warnings since we jumped on has lowered a bit. But still, these are dangerous supercells. And Barron's picking up on the circulation here just south of the severe thunderstorm warning. That's in Wisconsin. Let's go into Kansas because this area kind of on its own, and sometimes you have to watch these spots because, like I said, if you've got 10 or 11 thunderstorms competing over the same air mass, sometimes they can outdo one another, and you'll see that go bust in terms of discrete supercells. That's good news for anybody concerned with tornadoes in the upper plains, but it's bad news for flash flooding, for widespread wind events, and large hail. I still see that possibility. Now we're back into Kansas. Kansas City is here, so this is just southwest of the suburbs of Kansas City, near Ottawa. And Interstate 35, man, if you were to somehow go from I-35 all the way down through Kansas, all the way to Minnesota, you'd be encountering one messy travel night for tonight. That's also Highway 59. There you can see some of our wind jumping up to about the strong category. This is wind damage potential. And you noted we were at a 3 out of a 10. We're now at a 4.2 out of a 10 right now. See if I can zoom in a little bit more there. That's right at the junction of 59 and 35 in Kansas. Ottawa's right here. And as new radar information comes in, this is still looking like a really dangerous storm. Let's go to our Barron button here. You will not see this in most streams. I don't think many people have Barron, although it's something I would, if you really want to track severe weather, you can go with them. They're a great company for tornadic activity and picking up severe weather. Yeah, I was afraid that doesn't look good. 80-mile-per-hour winds showing up on the Barron button is significant. And of course, you've got the hail there as well. The hail not as big with this supercell, but the wind, the rotation there looks very, very impressive. Also, not to be outdone, you have to watch the cells off to the south because they'll intercept the moisture coming in from the south first. Note the number of rings. Why are there so many rings? Well, there's different elevations to a radar scan. It'll go out at the ground or close to the ground. After that, it kind of tilts up so that you get a 3D view of the storms. If you're operating the radar, you have access to the individual levels. Now, if something is spinning down here, and it's spinning up here, and it's spinning up here, as you see there in about 4 or 5 locations vertically, we've got a pretty good chance that there's going to be a tornado there. Whereas sometimes you look at these storms, especially some of the spin-ups that occur near the ground, it may only register one of those little cylinders right on the ground. If you look taller up into the sky, look higher up into the sky, and you see those rings stacked upon each other, that is almost like a confirmation that you've got a very, very strong supercell and a very quickly organizing storm if you see the trend of those circles begin to close in on one another. I've had this data for a couple of years now, and it's not very often that I see up to about 4 or 5 of these rings kind of spinning like that, even though right now there's just a severe thunderstorm warning for the Kincaid area north of La Harpe in Kansas. I would not be surprised if we have a tornado warning there very soon. Right now the radar is a little bit vague in terms of a couplet, but I do see rotation with this, and that's nearing the Mound City area. Where we do have a tornado warning is near the Ottawa area, and we'll check in and see if we have any chasers in that area too in just a second. That's nearing the Wellsville area, and it's probably getting a little bit clouded by the radar hitting the hail there. But this is near in Peoria and the Wellsville. If that's correct, that would be about 85-mile-per-hour wind there showing up in Kansas. I'm not sure if that hit hail. Sometimes what happens is the beam will come out and hit hail, and it'll give you some kind of crazy number. But so we'll keep an eye on that. I mentioned traveling. Let's just look at the whole country while we're live right now. You can see the winds up to about moderate wind. Now this is where you're looking at about 35-mile-per-hour winds there in the blue. The darker blue, you're up to about 40 or 50-mile-per-hour winds. And the orange areas are fog. Now if we get into the pink, that's hail. And I know it looks kind of blocky, but this is not just a radar product. This is actually a forecast that's independent of, again, the different things the Weather Service uses. And what it does is it picks out where storms may be twisting as a redundant area. In other words, if you were to just rely on one source, like the Weather Service radar putting out a tornado warning, that would be one source that you're looking at a tornado. This is a separate source completely, and it's issuing its own products. So we got a twisting storm alert there at that supercell. There are 3 of them in southern Minnesota going into Wisconsin, and now near Green Bay there's also a twisting storm alert. So those red areas don't pop up very easily. The Barron quality control pretty much filters out anything that's not severe enough to quantify a twisting storm. But we've got another two of those out across eastern Texas. So when you see the red dots, it's serious. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 twisting storm alerts from Wisconsin near Green Bay, back toward Albert Lee, Minnesota, southwest of Kansas City, and if you're watching and you're new to what I do, I've got enough time to do some consulting work. So if you have some kind of if you're a city manager, if you got some kind of an event, just a one-time thing coming up, I can use this software and it'll alert me to alert you or just alert you directly once we have these twisting storm alerts that kind of come out on their own. This is very important. I believe in the data because I believe there's a way to look at where we see the tornado warning issued. That didn't come out right. Let me put it to you this way. With tornadoes, with hail, with lightning and flash flooding, there are thresholds that the radar operator at whatever weather service office has to judge before they issue a special weather statement or a warning. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you had a way to know we were approaching that warning? So this gives you kind of an extra 10-15 minutes sometimes to say, okay, the storm is gathering strength. And again, if you're watching us in Virginia, we're good. But I'm trying to cover a little more national weather for two reasons. Because national weather now, there are no more boundaries with streaming. But the other reason is I want you to see this technology. And I want you to understand that Virginia is seeing more and more of these EF2, EF3 tornadoes. So while it's not in Virginia tonight, in terms of a tornadic threat, we've got an ongoing La Nina about to transition into an El Nino. And we can get some really bad stuff here. Appomattox, Evergreen, down through southern Franklin County, EF2, EF3 type tornadoes. We're not getting the spin-ups anymore. We're getting the real deal. And it's only a matter of time. I hope it's a long time from now, but it's only a matter of time probably before we see the influx of moisture run up against the warm front and end up giving us another outbreak. Roanoke pretty much gets sheltered by that a lot, but again, with each passing season, I see the reports of tornadoes very gradually over maybe a 10 or 15 year average shift a little bit farther north. And so that's why this data is kind of an important thing. So I want you to keep that in mind. So I'll put this in motion now, and again, you can see the arc of that storm system. This is the warm front right now that's coming out of southern Minnesota, going through Green Bay. Flash flood warnings, flood advisories are in effect there, and numerous severe thunderstorm warnings and a few tornado warnings, and then the activity continues back down through Kansas. So go back in now. The purple areas are where we've seen some very large hail. And we can put up some of these local storm reports too. They'll take a minute to load here. The Black River Falls area, this looks to me like more straight line winds. And you can see over the past hour all the hail that's been probably laid down on the ground and clogging up roads and all that sort of thing. We've seen a lot of that in the same area earlier this spring. In fact, let's confirm it. This is where the Barron technology looks at hail and where it saw hail. And now we've got ground truth, 3-inch hail. Wow. I didn't expect this year, especially for the hail to get this big. It makes sense with the warming climate, more water vapor. In the springtime, you get a lot of hail because up in the sky, it's still winter. Down on the ground is where we warm up first. So this time of the year, you get that clash where not just horizontally, but vertically, you've got a lot of cold air up here, and it gets warm in the daytime down near the ground, and that makes the air extremely buoyant. And you can get those updrafts that really come up, lift, get that super cooled water on there. That's the water that's below 32, but it hasn't frozen yet. And the longer it stays in the air, the stronger that updraft is, the bigger the hail gets. Almost too many hail reports to count here. 1.75 inches there, Mapleton. High probability of hail. I'm looking for confirmed tornado reports. I do see there are not many. That's actually a good thing. And what may be happening with this event is what I was saying earlier. There may be just so many storms that individual cells didn't really develop with this yet. It's going to be a long night, though, for folks from Madison up to Oshkosh, Green Bay. And again, near Albert Lee, there's the tornado warning. That may be the only tornado warning I'm looking at in that region, despite the rings of rotation here north of La Crosse. Check on Kansas again. Spotter confirmed he was seeing a debris from a tornado. Couldn't fully see it, but he saw debris by a probable tornado. That's in Kansas. Between Centropolis and Ottawa. Nearing the Wellsville area. Looking for more tornado reports. Right now I'm looking in Kansas. Big hailers. If you've been following severe weather this year, in the past couple of days, these have primarily been hail storms. But we're seeing more of a tornadic thing going on with them tonight. So it looks like the one in Kansas, nearing the Overland Park area, Independence, Kansas City here, this is the one that may end up taking the lead story tonight. So tornado warning including Wellsville. They've just updated it, narrowed it down a little bit. Interstate 35. Let's go to I'll tell you one thing I learned from Ryan Hall, y'all, is I don't have to talk the whole time. Radar Omega doing some funny things tonight. It's like it's closing automatically. I wanted to see if anybody's on this storm in Kansas. I don't see any icons here, so we don't have any. But just to show you right there is Kansas City. If you got any friends that live south of Kansas City, you might want to give them a heads up. I'm sure they're watching the local news there, or the storm chasers, or whoever else is streaming. But that's a dangerous situation. These are power outages there in the counties that are shaded. That orange right there. You're looking at live radar data from Minneapolis. Our cluster of storms continues kind of progressing on to the south and east. The good news is, again, these are mainly flash flood warnings, and it's hard to find good news when a supercell is dropping 1 to 2 inch hail, but that's the case. The tornadic activity is held a little bit farther south and west, and the reason for that is there's more wind shear there. What happens is the surface winds tuck into the low pressure system, and that gives you more of an angle compared to the upper level winds. I don't know if the bandwidth issues are on my end or their end, probably a little bit of both, but I am happy to report that I'm getting Chantel internet very soon, fiber. I never thought I'd see the day because if you know where I live, we've got a big field across us, and never thought we'd have, especially Chantel, come across to our location. So I'm excited about that. I don't like all these storm chasers sitting in the hook echo. That's not good. That's the inflow notch. Wait for anybody's feed to come up here. A couple of things could be happening. Cell phone towers could be getting blocked by these actual storms, by the hail. Or I don't have enough bandwidth quite yet. What time is it? Yeah, 9 o'clock at night. Gets a little tricky until I get my Chantel. I'm going to get real geeky on you guys right now. I'm going to pull up this Gibson Ridge software. See I know it's hard to see, but these are surface winds coming in out of the north and out of the east. And they're bumping up against the stationary front, and you've got wind there coming in out of the south. And where the wind bows back across, in the Carroll County, this is in Iowa, near Storm Lake, Fort Dodge, and Spencer, the winds are veering a bit. That's enhancing that low level shear. Is there a closer radar to what I'm looking at? Trying to find the National Weather Service radar. I had a terminal radar up, which is an airport radar, and the resolution's not as good with that. Green polygons on my software, flash flood warnings. Severe thunderstorm warnings there in the yellow. Depending on what my TikTok is doing, what I might do is sign off of the Facebook and head on over to TikTok because there's more of a national audience there. Hey, Katie, you see I had Chantel for about 2 months now. Cool. I cannot wait. I think you know the alternative with it's like every day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody's getting off school and work, and then about 9 o'clock at night, everything kind of gets bogged down. And I understand it's Go Fiber. It's like it's a partnership between Go Fiber and Chantel. It's pretty cool. There we go. Finally getting some, a lot of lightning. Also want to tell you about hail and lightning. There's a correlation between the two. Ice crystals will conduct a fair amount of electricity. So when you have a storm out there that's a big hail producer, it's pretty common to see a bunch of lightning with it. There's also research that suggests, well, it doesn't suggest it, I believe it's just proven. We see negative strikes most of the time, but when a storm really goes severe, and especially tornadic, you'll see a lightning strike come out of the top of the cloud and hit the bottom, and that's a positive strike. And what that'll do is instead of the negative strikes coming down, hitting trees and taller objects, a positive strike comes out of the top of the cloud and will hit flat surfaces. And they're often called bolts out of the blue because of that. But there's a lot of intercloud stuff, is what you're seeing there on the screen. And you can see the mesocyclone. Now, this isn't the tornado. This is the storm. One of them. Yeah, there it is. It's the one north of Wales right now. Almost continuous lightning. Can you see the aqua there? There's a crazy amount of lightning there. New Richland's in that tornado warning. Don't see a tornado yet, but man, that looks nasty. And I can tell you that when we're looking, you're basically looking at that storm right there. And if you're looking north near Waldorf, that area is getting pummeled by probably 2-inch hail right now, I'd guess. The wind going into that storm is coming from behind us, going in to the storm, so it's coming out from my back going into the screen. Again, I can't keep these up too long. Sorry. Another view of the storm, kind of a mesocyclone. See if we can do a little composite real fast. Everybody is riding along on, it looks like Route 29. Very strong couplet, though. I tell you, it doesn't put a tornado down soon. As the storm tightens, it'll lower to the ground. The mesocyclone will. The actual tornado will be a lot smaller than that. This guy right here, right there, he's closest to it. He's too close. Storm runner guy, I think. These are all the same thunderstorm in Minnesota, southern Minnesota. See that base right there? Goodness. You gotta have some nerves to live in this part of the world, don't you? Like, I'm scared just streaming this. And the good news, if there is any, is there's not a lot of homes out there that I see. But, you know, out in the upper plains where you see those trees, there's usually some neighborhoods around. when I went out to the eclipse south of Indianapolis. I had been to the one in Clemson, but I was really surprised at the fact we didn't have any traffic issues because of the population density was so low. But that one is, this storm is breathing and it may be cycling. You see there's one area right there of rotation. There's another one now just southwest of that. What'll happen is supercells are much like storm systems. So the cold air wrapping into the base of the storm, the rear flank downdraft, will end up catching up with itself. It'll occlude and it'll leave a little bookend vortex, and then to the south and east of that, which is right there, which you're seeing, you'll get a new area to develop. So there's the new circulation. Here's the older circulation. And there's at least 10 chasers on this thing. But, you know, this is the thing where you look at their cameras and you see better than you can with the radar. I'm impressed by this guy's camera work. This is like professional. He's zoomed in. He's zoomed into the horizon to see if we've got any debris going on. Did you know that you don't actually have to see the tornadic cloud, the condensation funnel? That's the sun setting in the background, I believe. For there to be a tornado on the ground, it's detected by the actual debris. And a lot of the deaths that occurred in the El Reno tornado, the chasers were in the tornado. They thought they weren't, but the sky, because the sky was clear, relatively speaking, but they were actually having the subvortices around it. They were actually still in the large-scale circulation. But there's two circulations with this, so this storm is tightening up. And it kind of looks like El Reno in the fact that it's, if there is a tornado, it's actually dropping south and east instead of moving north and east. So you can see the polygon's been extended down toward Freeborn. Again, I'm not going to put too much of that on. And I know you want to see it, I do too. Alright, let's see. Something I haven't really shown you yet, Gibson Ridge here does a really good job of showing the actual circulation paths. And it also distinguishes normal tornado warnings from confirmed tornado warnings. North of Sioux Rapids here, you can see that's the one of the supercells we were looking at, where you see a purple polygon instead of a red polygon. That is a confirmed tornado for Palo Alto County in northwestern Iowa. Ping pong ball sized hail. Spencer and Clay County moving east at 35. At least they're not moving at like 70 miles per hour. I've seen that before. But the colors here that are going from yellow into red and light blue, those are areas where we're picking up wind shear and not necessarily tornadic stuff. If it's elongated, then it's just straight line winds. And you can see here in this 1 hour recap where you had some real strong rotation that then kind of got elongated right there. That's more of straight line winds, and that's why the Weather Service there is putting out severe thunderstorm warnings instead of tornado warnings. Satellite image just updated. And the storm reports that are coming in from the National Weather Service, they're basically looking at the same apps we are, and they're issuing these LSRs as we see them live. I was looking at Hawaii the other night, by the way. Quick detour. More rain in the area. This is a live look at Honolulu. And you can actually see the, oh, they fixed it. It's like they've got the satellite fixed for me. Look at that swirl. They had a lot of wind too at Coachella. Not that I would ever go there, but this whole part of the country is just tremendously stormy. Reason for it is the jet stream will undergo these phases where it kind of blocks itself and kind of gets dammed up, if you will. So you get all these waves that come through. They hit the other waves, and they have to just spin themselves out, basically. You can see one here in the Gulf of Alaska. That's a common place for a wave to be, but look at the one just southwest of there. And there's a third one here. It almost looks like a face. But now, if you've been in Hawaii, what's happening in the tropical Pacific, they call it a cone of storm, but you've had in the trade winds here, you've had basically a La Nina where the trade winds are stronger and they push all the convection and storms off on the western side of the tropical Pacific. What's happening now is those storms, in a very general sense, are starting to redevelop back to the east. This is the West Coast satellite, and I know that looks like dust. That's the glare of the sun being picked up on the satellite. Hey, and guess what? The Earth's round. I can't believe I have to announce that in 2026, but now I want to see if I can loop this. They don't have a loop yet, but at the very least, this does give you a very good look at how it's all tied together. And this is the West satellite, so ours is going to be a little bit blurry, but we had a pretty high fire danger across the area again today. That resides still in North Carolina, down around the Charlotte area. High fire danger there underneath this big ridge of high pressure, very much like summer. The surface highs there are 1027 near Bermuda, and yeah, it's a Bermuda high that you normally talk about in the dog days of August. We're having it this time of the year in the early mid part of spring. Clockwise flow around high pressure, and usually when one side of the country is underneath a big ridge, we've got some troughiness, dips in the jet stream that are off into the west. Now on weather-wise, it's completely different with the mouse. So I'm still learning to navigate this. But numerous areas of upper level energy. Now the battle zone is where all the bad weather's at tonight, of course. So the jet stream, you can almost see the jet stream there coming up from the Pacific. Very long, deep flow there. And goes all the way up in the, Ontario. And that's what weather does. It balances things out. That's why we see severe weather sometimes. We've got our own, Ryan's got his own chasers. There's Adams. Look, it's really dark up there. Tornadoes at night, something you don't want to deal with. Northern Iowa near Storm Lake. We were watching that supercell a second ago. Let's see if we can pull the local radar up there. And if, I don't know how convoluted my presentation is tonight. Really don't care. Just had to jump on it because so many people have beat me to the punch on this. I'm probably a bit rusty. Forgive me. So we're looking at the Des Moines radar. That tornadic cell there. Get some information on that one. That's an observed tornado for Clay County. Some of the impacts here. As I mentioned, low population density. So the population in the polygon, at least this version, or that within that county, there's another polygon out to the east, only 137. And it's 58 homes under that tornado warning. That's the same one. Population of 880 in the second polygon. $496 homes. One bank. I can't compete with Ryan. This is his app. It's just incredible. I tried to put this in y'all mode where we could talk to each other. Given if I ever, we ever get severe weather here, which we will eventually. And on the right side of your screen, where my mug is, get rid of my. We've got a three-dimensional look at the storm on the left. And as we go through there, you can see it's towering up to about 45,000 feet. As I move this farther up, actually down, the line we're looking at's right there. You can kind of see the hail core. I've got 3D radar turned on. This gives you an idea of the beam as it comes out of each individual radar site. You have to account for the curvature of the Earth, and that's why the data kind of floats. So that's kind of more of a realistic look at if you were to actually conceive where the data is at in the sky. You're not really seeing what's on the ground at any radar. You're actually seeing 500 feet to maybe 1,000 feet up. Close to the radar. And then farther away, like here in Southwest Virginia, in between radars, like Buckingham County, Appomattox, you're looking, you might only see 8 or 10,000 feet up high. So it's Wisconsin, north of Madison, still under the gun. And I mentioned Kansas. Again, these are some very concerning radar signatures here. Here we can see a hook. That other stuff up north was kind of messy looking there. But again, that's the same interstate from Gardner down to Spring Hill. And the hook echo there. I'm going to get rid of the 3D radar, so we'll stack that on the ground. That way it's not kind of floating up in the sky there. And we'll turn our velocity on. I'd say that's a likely tornado. We've got one circulation. There's the older circulation near Antioch, not in Franklin County in Kansas. And there's a second one here nearing the Hillsdale Recreation Area. And that's in a populated area. You see 2.7 thousand people in the path of this potential tornado. If we look at our correlation coefficient, see if we have any drops in here that we need to worry ourselves with. Cranberry colors are going to show us where there's no debris, and we'll see debris showing up in the yellow colors. once this updates. And it's coming in. I don't see anything well defined. That's good news. The radar beam is actually hitting hail, so it gives you these long spikes. But what correlation coefficient is, it's a look at, if everything's falling uniformly, then it shows up in that cranberry burgundy color. If there's, like in the wintertime, if there's sleet pellets falling with rain, you'll see it drop. And with debris, you'll see it really drop. This is all wildlife. These are bugs in the blue. So the radar's hitting that too. You can see Mound City down here. This is getting southwest of the radar site. But the reason you see a drop in that correlation coefficient is because that radar beam, again, is up in the sky and it's hitting that 1.25 inch hail that's being called by the National Weather Service there in the warning. But there is some rotation near Blue Mound, nearing Mound City and Pleasanton. Maybe tightening up there. You can see all the lightning strikes as well. That's Highway 31 and K7. We've got some traffic cameras we're going to check out. We're going to try. And that's why I said we're going to try. These aren't very reliable sometimes. Virginia's got one of the better traffic cameras systems. Put it back on something you're used to seeing there. The hook echo is still very evident. That's in Kansas. Now look at this little red area. See that little circle there? That's the Storm Prediction Center going out of their way to put a mesoscale discussion out for that particular supercell. So I mentioned there, if we zoom in on out, there are two of those right now that are getting the most attention. And this is one of those situations where I want to go back to our Baron technology. And we left it in Kansas, so there we can see the rings of rotation and the storm reports there. I'm going to get rid of the storm reports real fast, because we had the cameras. But yeah, the Mound City, there's not an official tornado warning out just yet. But if you know anybody in Mound City, Pleasanton on State Route 52 in Kansas, take cover now, because I think this is going to be a tornado warning very soon. BTI of about 3, moderate to strong damaging wind with that one. 2 more tornado warnings, a pair of them. This is Oberlin Park, Kansas City here. You're moving south towards Spring Hill, getting the hail, getting the heavier rainfall. It's blinding rain. And then if you get right in the notch here, the inflow notch, we've got a fair amount of heavy rain and about a 4.8 out of 10 chance of a tornado there. National Weather Service agrees, has a tornado warning in effect. We're also looking at the same thing with the cell back behind it. And yeah, unfortunately for folks in Kansas, there may be one tornado warning after another. 4.3 out of a 10 there. So yeah, the Kansas area is picking up right now in my opinion, the more developed storms. Now our Baron button here is going to pick it up as well, showing 58 to 75 mile per hour winds and up to 2-inch hail. Look at the rainfall rates, 5 inches in just an hour between Baldwin City and Wellsville. No doubt some flooding occurring there on some of the roads. Even though it's not that hilly there, it still can happen, yet rain needs to go somewhere. And isn't it weird how, well, it's how weather works. We're here in a drought in Southwest Virginia, and you head off to the west, and they can't handle the rain. Especially with storms. It comes down at such a high rate that it can be really hard to get everything to run off without causing big problems. Let's put that velocity of motion there. You can see the darker greens and the brighter greens. That's going to load for a few minutes here. A few minutes. Hopefully not a few minutes. But I'm looking up across our my Apple screen, and it's covered in M-ping reports of hail. Just everywhere. Yeah, that's going to take too long to load that. So what I'm going to do is look at the latest image. Now it updates. $54 miles per hour. Again, I'm impressed with Mound City. 83 mile per hour winds here. Pleasanton and Kansas. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect, but that's a twisting storm, and that's why we've got a twisting storm alert. This is an independent tornado indicator. Twisting storm alerts with those 2 tornado warnings, and then Mound City, we don't have a twisting storm alert yet, but it's definitely picking up on some of the larger hail across that area. 1 tornado warning right now. That's the one in northern Iowa we were looking at a second ago. The rest of this is, again, too much convection competing for the same wind shear. So what we're ending up with is a flash flood threat. Now, don't kid yourself. If you wake up in the morning, you may end up seeing big news that, some areas have seen just a massive amount of flooding. One of the features I've got here on the Barron information, it picks up rainfall rates, it combines that with soil moisture, and it shows where it thinks flooding is. It will also do a forecast up to 2 hours in advance, but you can see here lots of these splotches here in the darker green is where we're seeing not just an isolated but a widespread flood event shaping up. South of Rhinelander, around Green Bay, and actually getting right into the suburbs of Green Bay. It could be flooded there as we speak, and near Albert Lee as well. All that hail's got to melt, and it clogs up the drains, and the Barron technology picks up on that very nicely. We can look at the Weather Service does a great job at flood advisories and flash flood warnings. And there you see them, but what we can also do is pop up the flash flood risk. And this will actually show us as we're approaching that threshold. There's a threshold for flash flooding. And each office looks at that across each county. Again, this gives you the ability to see that threshold before you get to it. And it's always nicer to see a little bit farther down the line with some of this stuff. But I haven't seen that much flash flooding potential on this product here in a long time. And I can do the forecast. I haven't even looked at this yet. The forecast, again, calls for more flash flooding into the Green Bay area near Pulaski and the Marion, and also west of Stevens Point, south of Eau Claire. Lots of flash flooding there, and with our tornadoes in Kansas, flash flood warnings and tornado warnings going simultaneously. Here's the bigger picture. That's a red flag warning for, if you can believe it, any even more fire danger than we've got here in our area. And you can see the ring of fire around that area of high pressure that's over Bermuda. Got some storms in Texas. Look at the satellite showing that V-notch. You get an updraft that goes way up into the jet stream level. What you'll see happen is the upper level winds still have to blow around it, and so they'll do this. And that's what you're seeing there, that V-notch there. I've had a telestration tool the whole time, and I haven't used it. So the jet stream does this. It's forced to go around that updraft. That updraft's like a pole, and the air is very fluid. There's also a dry line through here. That's why you've got the red flag warnings in effect, and the western part of Oklahoma down to Lubbock. Some special weather statements there in tan from the Amarillo area. Dry air, and here's where we got dew points up around 70. So the convergence of that with the jet stream, making for a high risk for severe storms, where the storms pop up all the way down to Texas, north of Hamlin. So what I'm going to do is rest my vocal cords. I'm going to get ready to do some TikTok stuff a little bit later on, and we'll be bringing you more. Uh, will be. It's me. Um, I almost said Dot. Anyway, we'll be bringing you more into the night tonight and into tomorrow morning on this severe weather threat. And I'm also using the computer model now that I have access to look county by county and show you what's going to be happening on Patreon. Head on over to Patreon, Jamie Singleton. I'll have some more stuff up there tonight.